And we are live. Welcome to Wilfred Stories, ladies and gentlemen. You know, sometimes they say, when life gives you lemons, you better make it a lemonade out of it. What I went through were truly lemons, and guess what I did? I made a very sweet and juicy lemonade. You can never fool a person once and think you can fool them the second time. Yes, I was a fool once, but that made me realize some things and I became wiser. My wife made me the biggest fool in the world, and she made sure that she almost ruined my life, because hers was already ruined. I mean, how can you cheat and get a disease? And when you get that disease, you infect someone else that you claim to love. I just don't understand this thing called love. Sometimes I feel like it's a scam to make people believe that there is something called love, even though there isn't. If there is someone who once went through what I had gone through, please let me know how you dealt with it. Allow me to let you know what happened. So my wife Amina, female 34, and I, male 35, met at a friend's party. One of my friends was celebrating their 30th birthday during summer holidays. At that time, I was going under a lot of stress because my mother was sick and things were not looking good with her condition. So Mike's friend, male 35, party was going or was supposed to be a good distraction for me. And it really helped me get destroyed, so there was this lady who was introduced as Amina, and she was a friend of Mike's wife. She looked lonely also. I'm saying that because I had seen that she was not concentrating a lot on whatever the other ladies were engaging in. She looked deep in her thoughts, or rather disturbed. She was so beautiful, her beautiful melanin skin suited her very well, and she was an African American. I found that out later. You know, she took my attention and heart that night. I was scared to approach her and ask what she was thinking about, so I resorted to just stare at her and admire her natural beauty from afar. Her beauty was hypnotizing, not knowing that I was charmed and taken by my almost early grave. But we would never know until it is said and done, right? I was hesitant to approach her, so I just decided to continue admiring her from afar. But the way she was out of her own mind worried me. It was like she was going through something big. The time went on, and I saw her standing up and going to the kitchen. I then took it upon myself that I was not going to miss that opportunity to speak to her, so I excused myself from the gents and rushed to where she was because Mike's wife beat me to it. When I got there, she was not looking fine at all. I saw her sobbing so bad she even had hiccups, so I got her a glass of water with sugar. I had heard that it helped with normalizing the nervous system and helped to calm the person down. I called Mike's wife to take her to the bedroom where she can rest. I was really worried about her and wondered what had happened to her to break down like that to a stranger. The party ended later and I went home. My mind took me back to my own miserable life. I thought of my mother's health condition and everything that was not going well in my life until I found myself thinking about Amina and her beauty. She had really taken my fragile but cold heart. I saw that her soul was crying for help. She needed a knight in shining armor, and I was already willing to be one to her. The next morning, I drove to Mike's house and made an excuse that I wanted to check on him and how they were after the previous night. Mike laughed at me and told me that the lady was fine, and she had gone back to her apartment. That was how I got that she was living in the apartment, and I had thought that whatever she was going through was either a family or boyfriend's problem. But I didn't ask anything further, so I went straight to the hospital to check on my mother. Amina was on my mind throughout the whole journey to the hospital. The way she was on my mind, I even told my mother to pull through because I had found her a daughter-in-law who would take care of her. I really don't know why I said that because I never even shared one word with the lady. Mind you, I didn't even know where she was staying, but my heart was beating drums whenever I was thinking of her. Was I already in love? I mean, her beauty has already taken me away, so maybe I would say it was love at first sight. A week later, I went to this cafe, name withheld, to have a meeting with an investor of the IT company I had started, but I didn't have much capital to launch it, so I needed an investor to help me boost it and get more clients. So when I got into the cafe, she was the one who came to the table that I was sitting on. I didn't see her at first when she approached the table because I was busy going through my proposal. She greeted and welcomed me, then asked if I would love to order anything or a drink. Obviously, I had to look up to the person who was speaking to me, and to my surprise, it was the sweet melanin beauty. I was surprised to see her working as a waitress at the cafe I was in. Small world, hey. Her beauty was something else, and her voice was as sweet as her melanin skin. She had that beautiful and charming smile on her face. I found myself staring at her for a few seconds until she brought me back to earth. So I ordered water and told her that I was waiting for a client, so I wouldn't be ordering anything until he arrived. A few minutes later, the client arrived and I called her again and ordered. The real reason why I had ordered water at first was because I wanted her to keep coming back to my table so I could admire her beauty without any tears on her face. Her welcoming and innocent smile made me want her more. I was taken, you know. Call me weak. I don't care as long as she was the one who made me weak anyway. But being weak to me, it took me straight to hell and back. After the meeting I had, I decided to stay a little longer, hoping that maybe I would get a chance to speak to her. I requested her service again, but that time I didn't really want to order, but to at least get her name from her. I had already got it, but I felt like I wanted to get it from her. So when she got to my table, she asked if I had wanted to order. Silly me. I just asked if I knew her from somewhere because she looked familiar. Stupid and dumb, right? But what would I have said because my heart was busy drumming outside my chest? Words ran out of my mouth. Luckily, she confirmed that I had seen her the previous week at Mike's birthday party that was hosted at his house. I was whipped by someone who was not even my girlfriend. So I asked if she was feeling better after what she had gone through. I tried to converse with her, but I knew that my questions and conversations were lame and boring. When she told me that she had to get back to work, I then found courage to ask for her numbers. She was a bit resistant at first, but I begged her and told her that I just wanted to check if she was fine and be a friend she would be able to speak or vent to whenever she felt under the weather. So she gave me her number when she was bringing my bill. My heart was at ease. I was happy that the first step I had taken was successful. I spent 4 full days contemplating on whether to call her or text her. My palms were sweating whenever I would stare at her numbers. I was nervous. All of a sudden, I didn't know what to say to her. Words were failing me. I was a coward, right? She made me nervous and it shook me because I was not the person who would suddenly lose words. Yes, I once had a fiancé, well, a high school sweetheart. I loved her, you know, and she betrayed me in the most painful way. She got involved, or let me say she got into a relationship with my brother-in-law and messed up my sister's relationship to a point that my sister was extremely hurt and took her own life. Ever since then, I stopped using and practicing the word love because it took away my sister and my mother became miserable, which led to her health being in jeopardy. A week later, I went to the cafe again, hoping to see her so I would explain why I never called or texted her. Unfortunately, she was off duty that day, so I had to call her to check how she was. Later that day, I decided to put my nervousness and fears aside and called her. She answered her phone. I tried talking to her, but she told me that she was going to speak with me later. She sounded a bit off, like she was afraid of something because she was whispering. Some of the words she had said, I couldn't hear them clearly, and when I asked if she was okay, she dropped her phone. That got me worried about her. My conscience kept telling me that she was going through something and she was scared to speak. My mind just rushed to another dimension. There was only one thing that would make a person speak like that, and it is when a person is in trouble or threatened. Worst part, I didn't even know her apartment address, meaning if I wanted to help her. I had to call Mike and ask for Amina's address from his wife, which was not going to be easy, so I had to explain myself first, which was something I didn't want. I ended up calling Mike and asked him for the address to avoid 21 questions from his wife. He also refused to help, and my hope of helping her went down the drain just like that. I tried tracking her phone using her number, but it was off and nothing was showing. I was really worried about her well-being and her safety. I got scared of losing her because women were murdered each and every day in this world, so my thoughts were running too wild. Another week passed, and I received a call from Amina. It was surprising because she had been quiet since the first and last call I had made to her, and Mike's wife didn't get back to me when she went to check on her. I was relieved when I got her call. She assured me that she was fine. I was not convinced though, so I asked to see her to ensure that she was really okay. Luckily, she agreed and set a date to see her. The day that she had set came. We were going to meet at a nearby restaurant. Her beauty was the first thing that I saw when she appeared. I couldn't get enough of her beauty. God really took his own precious time when he was creating her. Another thing that I had noticed about her was that she was a very calm person. She was not those loud and forward girls that stay in Chicago. I loved her calm personality. It brought that kind of peace that every man needs, you know. Since the day of our mini date, we got along very well. Another thing, she was not afraid to tell you the truth as it was. no matter how it would get to you. I appreciated a truthful person because it was rare to find them at fault or having secrets. Little did I know that I had gotten myself involved with the biggest liar of them all. She was what we call a dangerous, conniving snake that hides itself under a sheep's skin. If I knew better, I would run for my life before everything even took place. I was happy that she had loosened up and allowed me to be there for her in every way. Even though we were not in a relationship, but everything has a start, right? So I was willing to take everything slow and follow her pace. I didn't want to pressure her, even though the feelings that I had were getting stronger every time we spent together or talked on the phone. She didn't tell me what had occurred when I first called her. She just told me that she was going through girl stuff and dismissed it just like that. I didn't want to look so prying, so I also changed the topic and we talked about something else. Time passed and our friendship was getting closer each day. She had loosened enough to let me in on what was going on in her life. She once told me that she had an abusive partner, so the time I had called, he was with her, so she was not comfortable to speak to the phone because her fiancé was going to ask who she was speaking to. And if he found out that she was speaking to a man, he was going to flip and beat her up. When she told me that, I got angry because she should have at least made signals so I would hear that she was in danger, or she should have just sent me a text saying she needed help, but she didn't. Instead, she stayed there and waited for her abusive animal to decide what to do with her. What surprised me was the fact that I found out she was still with him, which was why she didn't want us to be in a relationship. I don't understand women sometimes. Would you rather stay in a relationship where you are turned into a punching bag and not accept the person who was willing to show you real love? When I asked why she was not leaving the guy, she told me that she loved him, and they had been through a lot together, so she couldn't just break things off with him. I knew that. That was just an excuse. And it was a very lame excuse, if you ask me, because I had lived with an abusive person. My late father was abusive towards my mother. When my mother tried to break things off with him, my father got livid and told her that they were never going to break up, and they were bound to be together until they die. Luckily, and by God's grace, a week later we were told that my father was involved in a fight. He was drunk, so he started a fight with the wrong crowd, and he got stabbed. Unfortunately, he didn't make it. He passed on his way to the hospital. That was the day my mother got her freedom back and she became herself again. And that was the day we experienced our mother's love, because she was always doing everything right to please my abusive father, to a point that she even forgot to think of her children and love them first before a man that was abusive-y. So I knew how abusive people act and think. I vowed to myself that whenever I get into a relationship, I would treat women with respect and show them true love. But where did that take me? I got cheated on. And the worst part was with my sister's man, the person who was supposed to show my sister love. But he disrespected her in a most cruel way. Some men are sickos and they don't deserve great women. I hated and still hate my ex-fiancé and my ex-brother-in-law because their affair didn't only destroy relationships, but it also took my sister's life. My sister loved her man so much to a point that she would defend him when people were giving her warnings about her fiancé, and when she found out that what people were saying was true. She couldn't accept and handle it, but she drowned into depression up until she decided to take her own life. I was also hurt by my ex-fiancé's and brother-in-law's affair, but I had to be a man and take charge of my home and my mother's well-being. Mother couldn't take the passing of my sister well, to a point that she started getting sick. I explained all my experiences with Amina. I knew that she was not going to leave her fiancé because her life was threatened, but I did it to think about it and make the right decision. To God be the glory, she actually listened to me and dumped her fiancé, even though it was not easy, but what she did made me proud of her. Not because I wanted to get into a relationship with her, but because she was able to put herself first before a man. So she went to the police department and filed for a restraining order against the guy. 9 months later, our friendship was going strong. She was also living her life freely. She no longer feared that her ex-fiancé would appear everywhere she was going. She no longer had fear of the unknown. And another thing, she unleashed her true self. Yes, she was still a calm and peaceful person, but she enjoyed her life on the outside. She loved going out on adventures, exploring historical attractions. I also learned that she loved history. She was a very curious person and would always ask the history of everything she came across. She told me that she had a dream of being a historian or a time traveler because she was so in love with anything that had to do with history. So I offered to take her to college so she can get more knowledge in history and achieve her dream to become a historian. The only thing I wanted her to experience was pure and genuine love. I wanted her to be free and not think that every man wants to control her like how her fiancé did. She was somehow reluctant to take my offer, but I assured her that she had nothing to lose, and she should let go of what her ex had done. As much as it was not going to be easy, she had to beg herself to be better and move on. I just couldn't believe how Mike and his wife would not help Amina when they knew that she was being abused. I was really disappointed at Mike for real. I had thought he was a man, but clearly he was not. So I broke off our friendship. I couldn't continue being friends with someone who vouched and tolerated women abuse. That was not the kind of friendship I wanted to be in. Anyway, a year ended with me and Amina being friends. She had accepted my offer, and I was happy that she had taken the right decision. So the following year she got enrolled in college, and I was paying, obviously. As long as she was chasing her dream, I was happy. Few months passed, the love relationship was formed, and one thing I remember is that it was her birthday, so I had made a surprise dinner for her. Well, she had moved in with me the day she was a free girl. Her and my mother got along very well. Mother would say that she reminded her of Stacy, my sister. So she moved in with me because her abusive criminal was the one who owned the apartment she was living in. That time she had a class in college, so she was not home, which gave me enough time to prepare for her surprise birthday dinner. It was going to be just the three of us, which was my mother, her, and I. Mother would always ask why I was not in a relationship with Amina because she loved her for me. I then decided that on that day I was going to confess my feelings for her. So when she came back later, we had a very nice, intimate dinner, and Mother excused herself, which gave me a chance to tell her how I felt. My palms were sweating. I kept rubbing them, praying that she would not reject my proposal. So I managed to put on my big boy shoes and brave face, then I told her how I felt. She went mute for a moment. Mind you, that time my knees were shaking. My mind was regretting my actions, while my heart was relieved that I had taken out one thing that was weighing on me for the whole year. So when she came back to her senses, she told me that she was not expecting my confession, so I took her by surprise. I already knew that, but I needed just one answer, and that answer was if she was agreeing to be my girlfriend or not. One thing about me that people do not know is that I am a very impatient man when I have to, and what Amina was doing was adding to my impatience. So I decided to give her time to think things through, even though my heart needed an immediate answer, but I couldn't rush her. You know. The following day, when I was preparing for work, she came to me and told me that she was accepting my proposal. Mind you, my mind had already thought and accepted that she had rejected me. She also confessed that she felt the same way as I was, and it had been a while since she felt the way she felt, but she couldn't tell me because she thought maybe I was taking her as her sister since she had moved in with me and my mother. From then, our relationship was formed and my heart was at ease. I respected my consciousness because it kept telling me that as much as I loved the girl, I should not put all my nails to it and leave a space for disappointment because we would never know how tomorrow may be and what it may bring. But I didn't listen to it and went ahead with giving all my heart and soul to the relationship only for it to almost ruin me. I had no doubts about confessing my love to her. I was free, you know. I became free and forgot to leave the space for disappointments. You know, when a relationship is still at the beginning phase, some call it a honeymoon phase, it is hard to take any advice or listen to your consciousness because you would be head over heels in the new formed relationship and nothing else mattered. Not knowing that I was actually digging my own shallow grave. A year into our relationship, I decided to take things on another level. I mean, I love this lady. She brought the best out of me, and she became my best friend and my pillar. Well, I won't say she was my strength because my mother was there for that. I was ready to build my life with her and to make an honest person out of her. I wanted her to grow my family name, you know, and bear me children that would continue with the empire I had started building. My IT company was going well. Everything was running and going smoothly. I was pretty proud of myself and the achievement I had made. I even managed to take my mother out of Chicago, and we moved to North Carolina to have a fresh start and live in a peaceful neighborhood. We were a happy family of 3 people. Well, I do not know any relatives or extended family because my mother never mentions them when she talks, or even when I ask. She would always dismiss the topic and move on to another one. We tried getting it out of her, but she was not giving in. So we also gave up because it was clear that she wanted nothing to do with them. We had to respect her decisions. Surely something big had happened between her and her family, so maybe if we pushed hard, she would have ended up getting angry. And that is not what I wanted, to see my mother angry or sad. I always want to see her happy, peaceful, and smiling. Her happiness was my priority, so I would always make sure to avoid doing or saying something that would ruin her happy and peaceful moments. Anyway, I proposed to Amina, and obviously she said yes. We had decided to start planning for our wedding in 9 months because she was busy at school, traveling and visiting historical sites. I respected her decision even though I wanted to marry her the same day I had proposed to her. I mean, she didn't have any family members. She once told me that her extended family had disowned her after her grandmother had passed on, and she didn't know her parents. She never heard anything about them. 9 months passed and she was available to start with the wedding preparations. She came with the decision that our wedding would take place in 6 months because she didn't need any pressure of planning. She needed all the time so she could get everything she needed. I tried complaining about that, but my mother told me that every woman wants perfection when planning their big day, so I had to be patient and follow her lead, so I obliged. During the planning of the wedding, she was going out a lot. Apparently, she had got friends at the college, so they were helping her in planning. The only thing I had contributed in the planning was capital. It was her and her newly found friends that I didn't even know about or know their name. My conscience kept telling me that something was smelling fishy and I had to pay attention to everything. My IT mind took control, and I started bugging her phone because she was also acting strange. When I talked to my mother about it, she told me that it may be the wedding nerves because a month had already passed of Amina planning the wedding. I didn't understand why she didn't want us to hire a planner because it's every woman's dream to get a planner for their wedding. Or am I wrong? She was too obsessed with the wedding planning, or maybe that was what I thought. So I was busy tracking her phone's coordinates. I found out that she was spending a lot of time in one hotel in South Carolina. I got confused on what she was doing in South Carolina because there were boutiques and everything she needed here in North Carolina. That raised an eyebrow because she was no longer traveling to those historical sites that she was visiting to study. So one day she came back from the same hotel, because that was what my computer was telling me. I asked where she was coming from. She told me that she was looking for a wedding dress, so she went to South Carolina because she didn't get the dress she liked around here. I didn't understand and believe her explanation because there was no dress that was being sold in a hotel in South Carolina. My suspicions grew more. My consciousness was telling me that she was cheating, and I had to find out who she was cheating with instead of planning for our wedding. A piece of me wanted to call off the whole thing and let her go. So 4 months before our wedding, she started coming back to being the Amina I fell in love with. We would spend most of our free time together, going through how we wanted our wedding to be like. We were in love again. Well, that was what I had thought, but nope, the girl had an agenda. So one night I came back from work later than usual, so I couldn't join her and my mother for dinner. When I got to our bedroom, she was wearing very sexy lingerie. I got tempted in an instant. As much as I was tired, I couldn't resist her beautiful melanin body. One thing about Amina, she was really gifted when it came to the body. She had the most perfect body, and I loved every part of it. So we did the things that engaged people do, and it was really amazing as always. But that night she went extra, and I enjoyed every moment of it. A week later, I started getting sick. I started seeing a discharge and itchiness in my private part that I didn't even know where it came from. I had pains around my pelvis. I also started going to the bathroom more frequently. That was really unusual to me because I had never experienced something like that before, and it really worried me because I didn't know what was going on. I had thought I had a deadly disease, so I told my mother what I was going through. And another thing, I felt like less of a man because I couldn't even satisfy my fiancé anymore. And that led her back to her constant going out. My mother told me that what I was experiencing were symptoms of STI. I couldn't believe her. She then told me to visit the doctor for a checkup just to be sure that it was not an STI. So I took a leave of absence at work and went to the doctor because I was really worried and was scared to lose Amina. What was happening to me was really scary, and the only thing that was ringing in my head was cancer or a very serious and deadly condition. So when I got to the doctor, he confirmed my mother's suspicions. Indeed, I had an STI, and the doctor requested that I bring my partner along to make sure that she was not infected. I was so confused by what the doctor said when he said he wanted to check if my partner was not infected. So in my mind, it came like the doctor suspected that I was cheating, and had possibilities that I had infected my partner, which made me think that maybe I had gotten it from Amina. I mean, she was constantly going to a hotel in South Carolina, claiming that she was looking for a wedding dress at the same hotel. I got angry because the last time we had been intimate was when she surprised me with lingerie, but where did she get it from? So I waited for her to get back from whoever she was coming from. That day, I didn't even bother checking her cell phone coordinates because I was going through my own thing. My mother kept telling me to calm down and talk to Amina in a calm manner, but I was too livid for any normal conversation. So when she came back, I asked her to go with me to the doctor. She started by throwing tantrums when I suggested that and asked if I didn't trust her. Her outburst confused me and made me angrier because it showed that she knew something. So I asked her politely about her whereabouts and told her not to think of lying to me. Then she told me the most shocking thing ever. She revealed that she had gotten back with her abusive ex-fiancé, and she had been spending most of her time in a hotel in South Carolina with him. She started apologizing about that and told me that she was scared to tell me that she had an STI, so she slept with me that day because she wanted to put a blame on me and make me look like I was the cheater. I couldn't believe my ears. I had thought maybe I had heard wrong, but no, the bitch had the nerve to tell me that. I couldn't control myself. I found myself straggling her on our bed until my mother burst into our bedroom and begged me to stop. I saw the trauma on my mother's face and Amina's since they were survivors of abusive relationships. Well, Amina had gone back to her abuser, so I won't count her. She was the dumbest woman I had ever met. So I decided to just leave the house and went to the hotel and hacked their CCTV system to check the room that Amina was spending time in with her criminal and to see what was happening. When I got it, I watched the videos of them getting all kinky on each other. My blood boiled, so I created fake accounts on social media and posted the videos online. I was hurt, angry, disappointed, and impetuous. I wanted to destroy her life just like how she did with mine. She was selfish to infect me with her infection, and she thought I was not going to find out. The videos started trending and I broke things off with her. My mother was really hurt because she had taken her as a daughter, but she disappointed her. I told her to leave, and I was glad that she was earning her own money, so there was nothing that was going to connect me with her anymore. I hated her, and I still do. What she did was the most cruel thing a person could do to another person. She kept apologizing, but I was not going to forgive her. I got help and treated the infection. Luckily, it had not spread it or got serious, so I followed all the doctor's instructions and vowed to myself that I would never get involved with a woman. Not after what I had been through. After the videos trended, I heard that the criminal abuser was actually a wanted suspect, so somehow the videos I linked helped the police department to catch him. It was difficult having to end things with the person I loved and shared my all with, but I had to think of myself first, and I couldn't leave my mother alone. I am too young to die. Guys, do you think I handled things better or I was a bit harsh for putting my ex-fiancé's dirty laundry for the world to see? Please advise me.